think it's just business. Like when anything does well, there's going to be competitors. In a matter of seconds, my entire template shop became redundant. Like I couldn't sell these things anymore. All of my products were outdated. And I was like, shit, what am I supposed to do? Get enough inspiration and definitely learn as much as you can from people who are doing it well, but don't follow them too closely and do not compare yourself to my business or anyone who's been doing it longer than you.
Quit debating, should I start a website template shop once and for all? How well do templates really sell? What differentiates successful template shops from the unsuccessful ones? Meet Erica, who has sold over $1 million worth of website templates in the past few years. She's gonna share all the things you wish you knew about running a website template shop.
So I see a lot of people are very keen to launch template shops right now, but not all of them make it or are uber successful. Can you tell me, why do you think that is exactly?
I think there's a few different answers here. There's a couple of things that I see really commonly, and I think it's probably a big part of the reason why some template shops aren't successful. I think that there's a lot of people starting template shops because it's such a low barrier to entry. It really doesn't cost much. It's obviously a bit of a time investment, but it's really easy to get started, which is why I love it. But because it's so easy to start, we see a lot of people who maybe aren't necessarily taking it super seriously, or it's not their, there's not a ton of skin in the game when it comes to starting a template shop. So that's sort of number one. I think we see a lot of people who are, I don't want to say not serious about it, but maybe, don't have a ton of skills already. They've dabbled with Squarespace. They've, put some websites together. They might not be taking the marketing as seriously as they should. So I think we see a lot of that. And then that makes us think a lot of these shops aren't super successful. But the ones that are successful, they're the ones that I guess are taking it a little bit more seriously. And generally they're doing two things. And that is really perfecting their designs and having standout designs, and spending a lot of time marketing, unfortunately. So they are, getting their really great designs in front of their audience. And I think when you have those two things together, your template shop's going to be successful. But a lot of shops are either not perfecting their designs, maybe not spending enough time on having designs that actually are better than the competition or stand out more than the competition or have some sort of differentiating factor. And they're also not spending a lot of time on marketing, because they might sort of start a shop, dabble with Squarespace, create a good design, but in this market, good isn't going to sell. Your designs need to be really good. Your designs need to be great. Your designs need to be on the level that the really successful template shops are selling at. And then also, maybe people don't realize how much time you actually have to spend getting those templates in front of the right audience. So quite a lot of marketing time. So I think those two things are the biggest things I see straight off the bat of why we might not be seeing template shops being as successful now. But on the flip side of that, the ones that are doing those things are successful. You can't be creating really, really great designs and doing a really good job at marketing and not be successful with your template shop.
I think that's a really good point. And I think when I think about that, it's there are plenty of template shops that are not successful, but there are plenty that are. And such just shows that I think that's one thing which I've learned in business over time too. There was this one marketing strategy that we went to go implement this one time. It was a self-liquidating offer. You run Facebook ads to a low price product, and then that leads into your funnel. And then it didn't work very well. And then I looked at, there was a friend of mine who was doing it, and she's like, oh, mine does super well. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, there's a difference in what she put together and what we put together. It's a pretty quick slap together project for us, and for her it was she put a lot of time and effort and dedication. And so I think that quality is something which you cannot, it's how do you what's so different of this than this? So they're why isn't mine working? And it's is the quality there? You have to really ask yourself that question.
Yeah. And like I said, because it's such a low barrier to entry, it's it's so easy to slap something together or not put a ton of effort in, and you will end up with a product and maybe for sale in your shop, but that does not mean it's going to sell. You do need to put that effort in.
So you've obviously had massive success with your template shop, but I know there's definitely been like challenging moments to it for you. Can you go through some of your let's say top 3 most challenging moments and sort of what you learned or what you learned over time to do differently?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. 3 right off the bat. The first thing I think what stands out the most is managing Squarespace updates. And I want to preface these challenges by saying that they're really lessons. And when I've had a really big challenge, I haven't experienced that challenge again because I've really made sure that I'm this is not going to happen to me again. And so the first thing that comes to mind is Squarespace updates. So back in I think it was 2020, and I'm pretty sure I was in a lockdown. I was in a 4-week lockdown. And Squarespace released Squarespace 7.1. So before Squarespace 7.1, there was only 7.0. If you're familiar with Squarespace at all, you'll know what I'm talking about. But basically, it's just a completely different version, a huge update in Squarespace. Yep. And I literally had no idea that was coming. All of our templates were on Squarespace 7.0, and I just woke up one day and overnight the whole platform had changed. And the way that they had rolled out this update was that you couldn't even access Squarespace 7.0 anymore at the time. So in a matter of seconds, my entire template shop became redundant. I couldn't sell these things anymore. All of my products were outdated. And I was shit, what am I supposed to do? And that was a crazy week of just trying to figure out learning a new platform, updating all of our products, updating all of our resources. I worked around the clock, and that was a challenge that I was this will never happen to me again. And it was completely my fault because I wasn't keeping up to date with what Squarespace was doing. I thought they had just launched it and not told anyone, but unbeknownst to me, I was just not keeping up to date well enough with what they were doing, and they had given us plenty of warning. And so it was 100% my fault that I was not prepared for that. So that particular time was a big challenge, and it has happened again since. And those times are still challenging because we still do have to create lots of updates. So that is something that comes with creating website templates, is updates. Yep. Because the platforms are constantly evolving, and if you have any sort of tutorials or resources, you need to update those as well. But I learned from that, and I'm much more in the know with what Squarespace is doing now. I have looked at the Squarespace circle every Tuesday morning since that day. I know what's going on in that circle now. And that's one of the first things I tell people when they want to start a template shop. I'm become a circle member and keep up to date, because if you miss one of these, your whole shop will be redundant in a matter of seconds. So that is one of the big challenges I've faced, and that pretty much everyone will face. It doesn't have to be so much of a challenge. It was more of a challenge for me because I really just dropped the ball. But it was a good learning experience. I think the other challenges, just day to day, I'm really trying to think of big challenges that I've seen along the way. And I think probably the most challenging thing, apart from those big updates that have really come at a surprise, the day to day of just marketing and showing up and dealing with the ups and downs of sales and business. Yeah, so marketing changes constantly. We have to be on top of the changes. And like I said at the beginning of this video, marketing, you can have a template, you can have a great template, but it's not going to sell unless you get it in front of your audience. So it's a constant machine, I feel that has to be fed. And that can be challenging because sometimes you just don't want to show up. And sometimes you are just really frustrated with the different platforms. But it's the thing that keeps the sales coming in, and it keeps the business moving. So I think a lot of template creators find that challenging because a lot of them get into it because they're designers and they're not necessarily marketers. And so, yeah, that's probably one of the most challenging things for me. And also just dealing with the I was just saying before, the ups and downs of sales, which kind of is just sort of goes hand in hand with the ups and downs of business and marketing and the day to day of running a business. But I have learned over time that just because you have a bad month or even a bad year, as long as you keep showing up with that marketing and you keep creating really good products, you're going to be okay. The sales will come back up. That is something that I've learned to sort of embrace. You have slow seasons, and you have influxes of sales at points as well. So a lot of ups and downs when it comes to selling digital products, especially when you're selling them like on an evergreen basis where you just have a shop and people are buying things. It really ebbs and flows month to month. So, but I think that like getting used to that comes just with a bit of experience and a bit of time. And like I've been selling templates for, I don't know, 6-7 years now. So it feels like I'm so used to it now that I'm like, the sales will come back up. And that just comes with time.
I have a whole new level of chill.
Yes.
For exactly that reason. It's because I've seen it go down, I've seen it go up. I've seen it go down, I've seen it go up. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm not like, it's summer. So, yeah.
Exactly.
I think one thing which we've talked about just like as we chat in life as well, or which could be also a lesson here, is like the more money you save in your personal life, the less that what happens in the business like is massively important. Like you do a great job of saving money, and so it's like, well, it's fine. So just making sure that you're like not pouring every single dollar back into the business, and you are putting some aside for yourself. Instead, if it is slow season, it's like, well, that's fine.
Yeah, and that's why we love online businesses like this and selling Squarespace templates, because like that low barrier to entry, there's low costs, you can make good money, and then you can save it, and then when a slow season comes, you can be prepared and be like, well, I've got savings from when we had our sale a couple of months ago. So it's a bit like this, but it's definitely such a good industry to be in if you don't want to risk it all.
A huge upfront investment. Can you talk to me about that? What is the startup cost of making a template shop exactly?
Honestly, like just nothing, but definitely it's more of a time investment 100% than financial. You need to have a shop to sell your Squarespace templates, so the likelihood of that being on Squarespace is pretty high. So your own website where you sell your templates, and that will be a couple of $100 a year. Aside from that, you can pretty much do, like, you could host all the resources on Squarespace now. There's so many ways you can do it for basically free, plus, the cost of your website. You can spend a bit of money on tech and like course platforms and setting up your stuff and making it a bit more streamlined. But when you're just starting, I honestly recommend just doing it like bare bones, because there's no point in spending the money unless you know that it's something that you really want to take seriously. And once you start getting sales, you can upgrade your tech, you can upgrade your systems, but I don't think it's necessary at the beginning. I don't think it really improves the customer experience enough at the very beginning for you to justify all those upfront costs. But even now, still, like, actually running the template shop, we still don't spend that much money on that portion. We spend a lot more money on marketing and a team than we do actually running the template shop. So
totally,
pretty much nothing. But you got to have some time to put into it. So
yeah, that makes sense. One thing which I would definitely recommend for people who are watching is like, anytime you start a business, education, I think, is like the best thing you can spend your money on. Is like, so say, for example, if it's like, oh, how do I market this like template shop or whatever, which actually in a second we'll ask you about your marketing strategies. But yeah, like investing in something to help you, not only like if the course exists to help you set up the business model, which Erica has one, but also a course on like whatever marketing you want to do, those things would, like, in my personal opinion, be like the best things you could spend your money on outside of your Squarespace website to sell your stuff.
Yes. So, and like, if you want to save time, it's just like so valuable, because you will save so much time if you just learn from someone who's already done it and can give you all the things. And that's the biggest, like the biggest time saver. Yeah.
Can you tell me about marketing for the template shop? Like, what is your marketing that you do right now?
Yeah.
So like a general thing. It's like, what is marketing?
Yeah. I know. It's pretty easy to answer for us, really, because we've actually had kind of a similar strategy from the beginning. But like, marketing is crazy and it changes all the time. So we've made so many like little tweaks to the strategy constantly. But we do a lot of blogging, more recently YouTube, but we have been doing that for a while now. Lots of blogging and SEO-based blogging, so people find us mainly through Google. We do, and then it's sort of just like, those are the sort of two main big content pieces that we put out generally every week. So once a week a blog, most weeks a YouTube video, a lot of Squarespace tutorials and guides for people on how to start their websites, because that's what our business is all about, or start their websites or DIY other design or business things. So lots of sort of DIY tips, because that's our audience. So that's who we're trying to target. So those are like the main content pieces. And then from there, it's sort of like social. The social trickles down from there, and the social changes all the time. Like what we were doing for social in the beginning is completely different than what we're doing now. But that's because, you know, if you know anything about Instagram or social media, it's like the algorithm changes every 5 minutes, and the strategy that you have to use is different. But those long-term strategies have been the same. The only thing we've started more recently is the YouTube video, but still it's very similar. It's a very similar idea as what we're doing with the blog, is we're just creating content for DIYers and just getting that search engine traffic and getting people to like visit and look at our products through that and learn about us. And we're going to help teach them through those channels. And then hopefully an extension of that is that we can also help teach them through our templates.
Talk to me about like picking an ideal client for your template shop or template. People are like thinking, should I pick a specific niche for my template shop? Should I just do like broad in general? Like I feel like yours is kind of more like female creative entrepreneur type like template shop. Is that good? Should they do something else? What do you think is the best practice for people starting?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think particularly now, a few years in, we've been doing these videos for a little while, and in the last couple of years, I think the market, like there is more people selling templates, which is awesome, but the, you know, different markets are a little bit more saturated. I've got a lot of opinions on that. I don't think that's like necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, I think like particular markets are saturated, so that will sort of like help me, you know, talk about choosing a niche.
Yeah.
But I also think, I think I already touched on it at the beginning, because there's such a low barrier to entry, it seems like the market's saturated because so many people are trying these things.
Yeah.
But I think there's like big players that are still, or people who are doing it really well, who are still owning the market. And it's because of those reasons.
Yep.
Because they're making really good products, and they're targeting their audience really well, and they're getting in front of them. So I think, the market, I wouldn't say it's saturated. I think it's just business. Like when anything does well, there's going to be competitors. I think competitors make you better. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. You might have to try a little bit harder than you did 5 years ago to sell templates, but the quality of the templates in general will be better because of that. And we're going to be helping our audience better because of that. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but I do think it separates the people who are really serious about it and are going to really focus on those good designs and marketing, and the people who are more hobbyists or just sort of giving it a go. And I also think like you don't have to be, I think you can also still sell templates and have success with them and not be a big player. Like, you know, just a few a month can make a huge difference to someone's life or someone's business. And I think that like a lot of people, like if you come at it a bit differently, say you're already a web designer and you maybe just want to add it as like a secondary service or product to complement your services, there's so many different ways to do it that we can make them work for you. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be this shop that just sells templates and sells tons of templates. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and you don't necessarily see that from the outset. You might not see shops being successful, but they might be selling a few, and that is enough for them, you know? So lots of opinions there, and it's not a black and white answer. It's kind of gray, right?
Totally. Do you know what I think? Like sometimes I look at, what is it? Show It templates, Shopify templates. There are so many. Like when I compare the number of
WordPress.
Show It. Oh yeah, WordPress. Yeah. When I compare the number of Show It template shops that I like know of and the people selling them to Squarespace, I'm like, this is interesting because that is a much, 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 much smaller platform. But there were just so many template shops on that platform specifically, and I'm like, this is interesting. Like it seems like a bit of a trend on Show It, but it's like it actually feels from comparing and also knowing the size of the two platforms and how many generally websites are on these two platforms, it's significantly different. It feels like Squarespace is like undersaturated in that aspect. So, granted, you can build a template shop on whatever you want.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're just in the Squarespace world, so it's like, so when I would be really interested to talk to someone who's like in the Show It world to see what that market is like and if people are selling. I don't really know anything about it, but it's so true when you compare different platforms. There is just as many, if not way more, people selling templates on other platforms.
Yeah.
There's also so much audience out there.
Yeah.
So it's really just about getting in front of them. But yeah, I'd be really interested to hear like, are people having the problem on shop? Like, are those shops actually selling? But I don't really know. I imagine they are.
Yeah.
Like there's so much room for people wanting templates. It's only growing. So having a more saturated market isn't necessarily a bad thing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be able to sell because the audience for it is growing as well every day. So
yeah, that's true.
yeah.
And so the reason I say that is like I was even on someone's website, Show It Designer, who also had templates. And I know that they're not one of the big players, but I forget what number of templates it said they had sold. But I was like, that's $1 million. Like I took template price times by the number of things that they said they sold. And I was like, that's $1 million. And I'm like, and this is not even one of the big ones. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's happening in the Squarespace community too. I think it's just easy to be discouraged because especially if you've been online for like, I don't know, 5 years or so and keeping an eye on it, the influx of template shops has really risen. But I do think it's going to get to a point where it's kind of like, okay, this is, I don't know, it'll stabilize a little bit.
Only the people who've done it successfully will continue doing it as well. That's
and like people who are really, well, yeah, I don't want to discourage people that haven't started because I definitely think you can be successful still. I think there's so much room to be successful still. There's no reason why you can't carve out a place for yourself in the market, but like you just have to, you know, do it well. Say it again, a really good design or differentiate yourself in a certain way. And like circling back to the question about niching down, I think like the market that I'm in, or I guess that we're in, that serves sort of online business owners, lots of women, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people trying to start and DIY their businesses. That market, like we're in that, so we can see that it's getting pretty full up with Squarespace templates for that customer. I think that doesn't mean that you can't serve that market. It definitely doesn't mean that. It just means that you have to try even harder to have a really, really good design that stands out and market to those people and get in front of them. But there is also a ton of niches that are just completely underserved. And I've been noticing that more and more because I have a course called Elevate with Templates where I basically just teach people exactly how to set up a Squarespace template shop, all the technical stuff, all of the processes and systems. So I've got a ton of students who are wanting to set up template shops or have set up their template shops. And the first part in the course is talking about niching down. And I don't necessarily think you need to get really, really granular on a niche, especially if you're not sure exactly who you want to serve in the beginning. I just think there should be some wiggle room there. But there is a few people that have come up with niches that I'm like, I would have never thought of that. Like, because it's something that they're familiar with. They're, for some reason, know about that industry. One of the big ones as well that I've been seeing, like a few of my students have done website templates for different countries, like in different languages. And they're like, there's literally no one selling Squarespace templates in German. And I'm like, well, duh. Like, that seems so obvious when you think about it, like in different languages. And I'm like, you're going to totally kill that because they're like, there's a huge market for that. But no, like people want their resources in German. They don't understand your English resources. They want their websites in German. And no one's doing that. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Like, get it. Like you're going to do a great job now. Just create a really good design and you're going to do great. Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of, I also feel like maybe it's just I don't see it, but I feel like there's so many template shops that are targeted towards like the audience that I was talking about before, those women, entrepreneurs, a lot of feminine designs. I think probably because a lot of template creators are creative females and like that's just an industry we've sort of found ourselves in. And so we want to serve people like ourselves. But I think there's a huge gap for men, like and more masculine or
dentists,
professional
lawyers,
dentists, lawyers. Like there's definitely gaps there. So you need to find them if you want to.
I feel like I don't really see people making templates for restaurants, but I'm like,
that's
they
true.
definitely use Squarespace for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep, there's probably restaurants. So I don't know anything about these industries, right? So it's just it's not something that I've ever wanted to get into, but it's really cool when you can see people who have had they might have literally been like, I've come from the restaurant industry and I hated it and I want to do something creative, but I know all about this industry. So and I'm sure you get the exact same thing when you are teaching people how to be web designers. It's like the same.
Honestly, so they come out with niches and I'm like, that's a good idea. So like one of them is like actresses and actors and voice actors and that sort of thing, because that's what she does. Another one was her family is all like in the trade, so like electricians, HVAC, contractors, landscapers. She did that, and then she even niched that further into like custom home builders. She's killing it. And
that seems so niche, but authors, like so cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's really wild. This is another question. It's like, okay, so people might be wondering, like, I'm sorry, you sell templates. Why did you create a course that like you're basically creating your competition? What are your like beliefs? Yeah, like what made you be like, that's a good idea to like help people do the same thing I do?
That's so funny because it's like everyone in my life would be like, why would you do that? You're like giving yourself competition. But I feel like something about this online world, it's like I try not to like consider people competition. I feel like there's a place for everyone. And I really try and hold that belief. Sometimes it's hard to hold that belief. Sometimes I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I training these web designers to be better than me? But I try to hold the belief that there is space for everyone. And like we just talked about, like everyone will find their little spot on the internet. Everyone will find their niche. And I also like come from the mindset of like, people are going to figure this. If they want to do it, they're going to figure it out anyway, right? They're going to go onto YouTube, although the resources for learning how to create a Squarespace template shop are pretty sparse, but they will figure it out. Like I figured it out by myself. So if people are savvy enough, they're going to figure it out by themselves. Why not like let me just help them? I've got so much experience. I'll just tell them all the things. They can pay me for it, save a bunch of time, and like we both win. You know, like they're going to probably be my competition anyway. Let me make a little bit of money teaching them my experience. So it's a win-win for both of us, I think. Yeah. And it's like it's a fun community to be in. And I think like people have, because I've been around for so long, it's hard to believe, but they do look up to me and my business. So it's nice to be able to, like I have had plenty of challenges and hurdles, and it's nice to be able to help people with that. Yeah, it's fun. It's cool.
Can you tell me, if you had to give some advice to people who are starting as template shop, like what are the main things where you're like, please do this or don't do this?
I would say all the things that I've already said a million times now in this interview. Differentiate yourself, whether that's finding a specific niche or really, really making your designs better than everyone else's. Like work really hard on your design skills, but equally work on your marketing skills. You cannot have one without the other, and you're not going to be successful with just one thing. Granted, marketing, like you can do a million different things with marketing. You do not have to do the same thing that I do. I would probably not even recommend it because, well, I would recommend it because it's worked, but I would recommend looking at all your options, thinking about who your audience is and how, like what marketing things that you want to do. There's so many different options with marketing, and it feels like with online business, we're all kind of going in the same direction. And I think there's so much room to get more creative and do different things with marketing. So those are sort of like, I've talked about that enough now. Those are the two things I think you need to do when you're starting a template shop. For like random pieces of advice, I would say like one thing that comes to my head when I think about when I was starting a template shop was get enough inspiration and definitely learn as much as you can from people who are doing it well, but don't follow them too closely, and do not compare yourself to my business or anyone who's been doing it longer than you and even like 6 months longer than you, because it's only going to discourage you. I think like a long time ago, I unfollowed all template shops on my Instagram. I don't go on Pinterest anymore because all I see is other template shops. And unless I'm looking for something really specific and I'm really trying to figure something out about a specific brand, I do not pay attention to what they're doing at all, because all it does is discourage. And I think like if you are following people on Instagram and like really check in with how you're feeling. I always mention Instagram because I feel like it can be such a hole for like comparison, but any social media. check in with how you're feeling when you're scrolling on your feed. And are you like, this is really good inspiration? Or you're like, this is making me feel a bit sick inside because I will never be able to do any of that. They're so much further ahead than me. And just really make sure that you're not feeling that way. If you are, unfollow them, because you only need so much inspiration from someone else. You need to get into your own rhythm, and you need to really focus on your customers and what it's going to do, like totally what you're going to do for them, because otherwise it's just going to make you sad.
I fully 100% do the exact same thing. Like, I have very little idea of what other people are doing in their businesses. For exactly that reason. And not only that, but like coming to inspiration, like there are times when you want inspiration. Like, I'm about to do a site redesign. I looked for inspiration. Other than that, I do not go creep people's websites to like compare my design to theirs or anything. It's not happening. And basically, like, when you want inspiration, like, I am not on Instagram, but if I want inspiration, I could go onto Instagram at that very, like, when I'm like, I'm intentionally going for this specific purpose, but I'm not always just like, oh, I'm getting inspiration, getting ideas. Like, getting ideas and distracting yourself is a terrible, terrible thing to do in your business, in my personal opinion.
It never makes you feel good ever.
No.
Because it doesn't matter how good your business is doing. You might look at me and be like, she clearly has a successful Squarespace template business. I will open up Instagram and, well, not anymore. My Instagram feed is cleansed, but say Pinterest. All my Pinterest is just, I can't get away from other Squarespace template shops because that's what Pinterest thinks like what I want to see. I'm like, I don't want to see this. So I can't go on my business Pinterest account. I open that up and instantly I'm like, my business is crap. I like just have all these negative thoughts, and they're just so unconscious. They just come streaming in, and it literally doesn't even make sense because I'm clearly successful in my business, and my business is doing fine and great, and I am proud of everything I've done. But it's like, as soon as you start comparing yourself, and I don't even know if these templates are selling, but I'm like, oh, these are so much better than mine, and like, oh God, I need to do all these things to make mine better, and then it's just so unproductive and negative. So just be like really mindful with that. That's a big piece of advice, I think. Cleanse your Instagram feed.
Cleanse your Instagram feed.
It doesn't matter where you are in your business. Like, you will always compare yourself to everyone else.
You can always find someone bigger you can always find someone bigger. Like, it's better. Like billionaires or something. It's like, oh, well, there's someone with more billions. But it's like, unless you're currently the top, I don't know who it is. But even still, I bet they will look at something and they'll be like, oh, well, I need to have this business too because this person has this business. And it's just like, it's just human nature, and it's just toxic. It's like, I don't know what's wrong with humans, but we're just like that. And social media does not help at all. No.
So stay in your lane, do what you can, and
Totes. What resources or things exist if people want to start a template shop? What can we give them to head to?
Okay, so my first recommendation would be watch all of me and Paige's videos together, because we have
three others.
We have three others, and like lots. A couple of them are, there's like really good information about like what to do from the very beginning. This was like a little bit more like random tips of advice, but we really do have like, we've covered all of the questions, I think. And then for technical information about building a Squarespace template shop, definitely take our free training. So I've got a free training, and that is a really good place to start for like really seeing some of the behind the scenes of how a template shop works, and like technically how to actually set up a template, send it to someone. There's some really good how-to in that video and that free training that you would find like really helpful if you are already a designer and want to start looking at templates, or are just completely new. I think it's a really good taster of like what it all entails. There's some other free resources online that you could Google. Oh, we do have like some videos on our channel as well and our blog. So check those out. I'm always like an advocate of just soaking up all of the free resources you can until you're ready to start. And then if you do want, like if you've taken our free training and you decided it's something that you really want to do, we do have a full course that you can take that literally starts from the beginning and teaches you exactly how to set up your shop. We give you all of our like templates and processes and systems and all of our mistakes and challenges and learning experiences that we will help you avoid, which is like the good part of learning from someone else. So you can take that if you are super serious about getting started with the shop. That is, we're actually launching that pretty soon, but otherwise just jump into our free training. That's a really, really good place to start. And that will be linked below.
Amazing. Thank you. Okay, yeah, we'll link all that stuff below. Erica's YouTube channel, the other videos we made, and the free training. That's fantastic. They have a lot to binge now. Okay, thank you, Erica.